Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Study English with Frank. And today we're going to be continuing our series on English for travelers. Are you planning a flight soon? Today we're going to be talking about some of the things that you should know about the boarding process. The boarding process. Are you ready? All right, let's fly. All right, just before we get started, I might remind everybody that this is actually video 6 in a series about some of those words that you should know in English if you're planning on a trip. And so if you haven't seen the other 5, be sure and find those. The easiest way to do that is to just click on our channel button there, take you to our YouTube channel where we have all of our videos. And then the next thing to do is hit the playlist button. There's a little menu option there, playlist. Hit that and look for the playlist that says English for Travelers, and you'll see all of our videos there. Playlists are a great thing to know about. It'll help you find all of those English lessons that you have been looking for, whether it's vocabulary, easy conversation, maybe grammar. Some of those categories that you are wanting to brush up on, well, you can find them in playlists. Oh, one more thing. If you stay to the end, I've got some special tips for you. So be sure and stick around to the end. All right, let's get started. In our last lesson, we covered how to find your gate. So we are now at our gate. Hopefully you have found your gate. And so now, what are some of the things that we should do next? What are some of the terms and English words that would be helpful to know when you are going on a trip and traveling through an airport and you have arrived at your gate? The first thing that I like to do is check the monitor above the counter to confirm that I am actually at the right gate. When you get to your gate, look for a counter. There's usually a counter there. The airline staff might not yet be there. It might be an empty desk. But usually right above that desk is a monitor that has information on it. And it usually has information about the next flight that is going to leave from that gate. And so what I like to do is look up at that monitor and make sure that I am at the right gate, that this flight that's leaving from these doors is the same one that's on my ticket, right? And the other things that I like to check is the time of departure. The time of departure, it's usually listed right there on the monitor. And I want to see if there's any delays. Has the flight been delayed? Is it departing the same time as on my boarding pass, or has something changed? Often a flight can get delayed. And so you want to check the monitor to make sure that it's going to leave at the time that you have stated on your boarding pass. Then once I have confirmed both of those things, I know how much time I have before the plane is going to start boarding. That's usually the other thing that's on the monitor is boarding time. So you'll have the flight number, the destination is usually on that monitor, the time of departure, and usually the time of boarding. So I want to know when that flight is going to board. Have I enough time to maybe go to the washroom, maybe get a coffee, a bite to eat? How much time is left before I need to be back to board? Now, usually I like to make sure that I am in the waiting area for my gate at least 30 minutes before it's time to board. And the reason is because during those 30 minutes, especially once the airline staff has arrived and is starting to do their work at the counter, they might start giving important announcements. Announcements. Do you know what announcements are? Well, that's when they talk on their little mic and you hear their voice over the speakers. So they're giving announcements into the mic and it's coming over the speakers so that everybody in the boarding area will be able to hear it. And it's a good idea to pay attention to the announcements. They might give more information about if the flight has been delayed. They might call your name, actually. That's something that you should be listening for, is the flight attendant or the airline attendant calling your name. If you hear your name on the speakers, you might not understand all of the words that they might be saying in English, but if you hear your name being called, you should go up to the counter and talk to an airline representative, because they might need to check your documents to make sure that you have the proper visa, for example, or they might need to let you know that they're having to change your seat. It's a good idea. They want to make sure that your documents are in order. They might need to print you a new boarding pass. And so if you hear your name over the speakers, be sure and go up to the counter and talk to an airline representative. Another thing that they might say into the mic that's going to come over the speakers in the announcements is instructions on how they want you to board the plane. Every airline might have just a little bit different procedure, and so it's a good idea to listen to the announcements about how they want you to board the plane. Well, what are some other common announcements? Here's one. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a full flight today, and we are concerned that there will not be enough room in the overhead bins for all the carry-on luggage. Do you remember what carry-on luggage is? If you're not sure, go back and check lesson 1. We talked about it then. Carry-on luggage. That's the luggage you take with you on the plane. And so the airline might be saying, look, we've got a full flight. I'm afraid we're not going to have enough room in the overhead bins for everybody's carry-on luggage. And so they'll say, we're looking for volunteers who would be willing to offer up their carry-on luggage to be checked. What does it mean to check your luggage? Well, those are all the bags that go under the plane and ride underneath the plane. Just like the suitcases that you checked when you did the check-in process. You checked some bags. Well, now they're asking you, would you like to check your carry-on bag so that we can be sure that we have enough room? Well, you should think about whether or not you want to volunteer to have them take your carry-on and check it through. It's usually, almost always, a free service. So it's kind of a good deal. What might have cost you $100 or $150 to check that extra bag a few minutes ago when you were at the check-in counter, well, now they're offering to do that for you for free. And you don't have to worry about that bag until you get to your destination. They're going to check it right through to your final destination. And so if you don't have anything that important, you might want to consider checking your bag. What are some of the reasons why you might not want to check your bag? My bag, my carry-on bag, is full of a lot of fragile and expensive equipment that I don't want to get stolen. It also has, my bag has a lot of batteries in it, and the airline does not want you to put batteries underneath in the checked luggage. So if your bag is full of batteries and cameras and devices and computers and that type of thing, then you probably don't want to volunteer your bag. But if you've just got clothes in your suitcase, you might want to consider this offer. When it's a full flight, they'll be offering to go ahead and check that bag. Now, if you do decide to check the bag, here's a tip that you should follow. And that is, and they might even say it in the announcements, they might say, if you're checking your bag, be sure to take out any batteries. You'll also want to take out any medication, pills that you might need on your trip. You don't want to have any cash in that checked bag. So take out your cash. Any jewelry, anything valuable, you shouldn't put in the check-in luggage. So just be sure and think about what's in your bag. Take out those items that are fragile, valuable, or are batteries. And maybe just put them in your little extra bag that you might have. Maybe it's a laptop bag. You can put a few things in there and then check your suitcase full of clothes. All right, what's next? Well, usually the next announcements are about the boarding process. The boarding process. Who will board first? What is the order of boarding? And this is important to understand because you don't want to get to the counter and be told that, sorry, it's not your turn, go back, right? You want to know when you should board, when it's the proper time for you to board. And so let's take a look at how the airlines usually board their flights. Usually the first people that board are people who need assistance in the boarding process. These are people who may be in wheelchairs, people who are disabled, parents with small children, babies. Anybody that needs a little extra time to get settled, the airline will usually ask for them to get on first so that they're not holding everyone else up when it comes time for everybody to board. They don't want to be having these people, their wheelchairs blocking the aisleway when it's time for everyone else to get on board. So they let them on first. They're the first ones to board. The next group to board are usually people who are sitting in first class or maybe business class. Those who have paid extra money for their tickets. They want to serve them and make sure that they get settled and are comfortable before everybody else boards the plane. Sometimes, if people are very frequent flyers, frequent travelers with that airline, and they have a card and have built up a lot of points and they've reached a certain frequent flyer status, they might be allowed to board first along with the first class and the business class because they've reached the platinum level of that airline's frequent flyer program. So these are given priority because they are loyal customers that fly a lot. Now, often these people will be boarding in a group that is called Zone 1. Zone 1. That is actually how a lot of airlines will board, is according to zone. And that might come across in the announcements over the speaker. The lady might say, ladies and gentlemen, today we will be boarding by zone. Please take a moment and look at your boarding pass to see what zone your boarding pass, what zone you are in. It'll be printed right there, usually right on your boarding pass. And so you might be in zone 2, you might be in zone 3, zone 4, sometimes even zone 5 or 6. It usually doesn't go past 5. So take out your ticket and take a look and see what zone you are boarding in. Now, not every airline uses the term zone. Sometimes it might be group. So they might say, please check and see what group you are in, what group number. And so you might be in group 2, you might be in group 3. Well, they will want you to board when your group is called. And so they might even say on the speaker, please stay seated until your zone is called or your group is called. Now, there is one more way of boarding that I've seen. On some airlines, they board by color. Have you ever had this before? They board by color. What happens is at the check-in counter, when they check in their bags and they get their boarding pass, the airline agent will put a colored sticker on the boarding pass. And so then when it comes time to board, they say, today we are going to be boarding by color. Please check your boarding pass and see what color sticker you have on your boarding pass. And please wait until your color is called before you line up, they'll say. So if you've got a red sticker, then you're listening for when it's red. And that's an interesting way. I think I notice this system a lot when I'm flying in those countries where there might be a high rate of illiteracy. And people might not be able to read zone or group, but they can know their colors, right? It's time for yellow. And if you've got a yellow sticker on, you know it's time for you to get on board. And so that's a third way that airlines can board. Well, after the first class and business class and frequent flyers have boarded, then it comes time for the rest of us. Usually, it will progress by numbers in sequence. So after zone 1 is finished boarding, or there's just 1 or 2 left in line, they'll start calling for everybody in zone 2 to start boarding. And so the people who are in zone 2 will start making their way to the counter. And when that group thins out and there's only a few left, then they'll get on the announcement and they'll say, okay, we're now boarding all zones through 1 to 3. Boarding zone 3 now. And if you're in zone 3, check your ticket. If you're in zone 3, then you can stand up, get in line, and board with all of the people in zone 3. And then zone 4 and zone 5. By the time they get to zone 4 and 5, they usually have both of those can board at the same time. They'll say, now boarding all zones 1 through 5. And everybody jumps up and gets in line to board the plane. So what do you need to do when you get to the counter? In most places, the agent is going to want to see your boarding pass and your passport. What they want to do is make sure that your boarding pass matches the name in your passport and that the photograph in the passport matches the person that's standing in front of them. They want to make sure that you are the right person for this boarding pass. And so they'll want to check that. Now, to make this whole process go faster, and they might even make this in the announcement over the speakers, what they want you to do is put your boarding pass in the same page as your identification. And it's a good idea to put your boarding pass in such a way that they'll be able to read it. It's not upside down. They read it, and then they can check it very easily and quickly. And if everybody does that, then the whole boarding process goes faster. Now, things are changing. Artificial intelligence, you've probably heard about this. AI is taking over the world. Well, these days, in some airports, you don't have to go through this process. Some of the airports now have, right at the gate, they have about 4 or 5 little passageways that you can go through that are closed. And what you need to do is take out your boarding pass and place it on a scanner in that little corridor. You'll see a scanner. Put your boarding pass with the QR code down, put it down, and it'll scan it. And the computer, the artificial intelligence, will be able to tell from that your name and that you're on the right flight, you're at the right gate. It'll know all of that. And then there'll be a camera that looks at you. So you have to kind of look up at the camera. If you have a mask, you have to take it off, both for the airline agent as well as the camera that is going to do face recognition. Face recognition. Last time that I was flying to Indonesia, I think it was, I don't know how they had my face, but all I had to do was look at the camera, and if my face was the same information that they got off my boarding pass, then their little thing automatically opened up and you were able to walk through. You didn't have to talk to anybody. So things are changing. You might not have to go to the counter and submit your passport anymore. As the years go by, this will probably change in all of the airports, and it'll make the boarding process a lot faster, actually, because 5 or 6 people can go through at once, and it's all very quick. Scan your boarding pass, look up at the camera, and the gate opens and you can walk through. Very nice. Now, there's one other way that you should know about that the airline will check to make sure that you are who you say you are, or that that you are the same person as the passport you're holding. And that is, while you're lined up in your zone, some agent will come by and do your passport check. So they'll ask you to take out your passports while you're waiting in line. And they'll check your boarding pass against your passport. And if it's all correct, they might take a pen and sign your boarding pass. Or they might have a little stamp. They stamp it. Or they might have a sticker. And they put that sticker on your boarding pass. And if you go through that process, then you no longer need to show your passport. You could even put your passport away, because now when you get to the counter, all you'll need to do is show your boarding pass that has the sticker or the stamp or the signature, and you'll be able to just go right through. They'll take your boarding pass and they'll scan it so that their system knows that you have boarded the plane, but it's very quick. They give it back to you and you're on your way. And so that, again, speeds up the process of boarding, to have all of those passport checks done ahead of time. So you might encounter that system as well. Just be aware that that can happen, and be ready to give your passport and boarding pass to an airline agent who is going through the lineup, talking to everybody, and doing the document check. So once you have been allowed to pass the counter, what do you do next? Well, my advice is to just follow the crowd. Follow the crowd. Usually all you have to do is follow the crowd ahead of you. If your plane is actually parked at the gate, they will have opened up a corridor, a hallway, that will connect to the actual door of the plane. And you just walk, follow the crowd down that hallway, and it'll bring you right to the door of the plane. Now, sometimes your plane is actually not parked at the gate that you do the boarding process. You might even have to go down some stairs. You might be wondering, well, why am I going downstairs? Well, what's happening is they're taking you to a place where you can get on board a shuttle bus. A shuttle bus. Just follow the crowd, get on the shuttle bus. There's a few places to sit down, but usually you end up standing. Just hang on, and the shuttle bus will take you out into the field where your plane is parked. Now, you get to the plane. If you're on a shuttle bus, you'll probably have to get off the shuttle bus and walk up some stairs to get to the doorway of the plane. So just follow the crowd again. If there's 2 stairs, check your ticket. You should probably by now already know what your seat number is. But if you know that you're at the back of the plane, and that's like, well, it depends on the size of the plane, but if you know that there's a high number, you're seat 64, seat 84, well, then you want to go to the stairways that is at the rear of the plane so that you don't have to walk through the inside of the plane to the end of the plane. If you know that you're sitting close to the front, then you'll want to take that stairway up to the front door. So you get to the door. What do you do then? Well, you don't need to show your passport again. You can probably have already put that away. But the stewardess often wants to see your boarding pass. I don't think they're checking your name or anything. They just want to take a glance and see your seat number. This is especially true if you're on a very large, wide body plane. Wide body plane that has seat numbers A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. They'll look at that, and if you're in 65J, then they'll direct you to make a few steps across to the other side of the plane before you start making your way down the aisle to get to your seat. It'll be a lot easier for you if you're in the right aisle for a seat that's on the other side of the plane. So just show the airline attendant your ticket, and they'll direct you as to what aisle will be best for you to go down based on that plane. Well, that's our lesson for today. I hope that you found it helpful. If you're just kind of like a first-time flyer, even if you already are fluent in English, you might have been able to pick up a few tips in this lesson about how to board a plane. Now, just before I let you go, I want to give you 2 more good tips that you should know when you go to board a plane. The first one is, even though you're safely on board and you're sitting down in your seat, it's a good idea to keep your boarding pass handy. I wouldn't put it in the overhead luggage. Keep it handy. You can put it in the pocket of the seat in front of you. There's usually a little pocket there that you can put things. Put it there because, well, there's 2 reasons. One is someone might come along and say, excuse me, you're in my seat. And you want to be able to pull out your ticket and show them that you are sitting in the right seat. And you can prove it by showing them your boarding pass. Or the flight attendant might want to see your boarding pass just to make sure that you have sit down in the right seat. And sometimes you might actually be in the wrong seat. Sometimes it can be confusing the way the numbers are labeled. Might be right in between 2 seats, 2 rows. And you might have sit down in the wrong row by accident. All right, just one more tip before I let you go. And that is, if you feel like this whole process of going to the airport and getting checked in and finding your gate and going through this boarding process is just too overwhelming for you. Or maybe you're putting your elderly parents on a plane. They've come to visit you, but now you're sending them home, and you don't want them to get lost or get confused as to where to go. There's something that you can do. You should know most airlines will offer this as a free service, and that is special assistance for boarding. And if you request that when you buy your ticket, they'll be ready and expecting you when you check in your bags. They'll have someone waiting there to put your elderly parent in a wheelchair. Maybe they have no problem walking, but you can say they need special assistance, and there'll be a wheelchair there, and someone will actually take them in the wheelchair right to the gate and help them get on the plane. And it just makes it worry-free for you and easy for your elderly parent. If you yourself are a first-time flyer, you might want to even use this special assistance service the first time you fly, just to make sure that you don't get lost in the airport and that you actually get on your plane very easily. Special assistance. It's a free service, but you should know that it's expected that you should tip the person who is taking you by the wheelchair. They're probably getting a little bit of pay from the airline to do that, but they're probably not getting paid very much. So it's nice to have maybe a $20 bill that you can give the person as a tip for taking you to your gate and helping you get on board. All right, well, that's our lesson for today. If you found this helpful, help me by giving it a like. And if you haven't already done so, we invite you to subscribe to our channel so that you'll be sure to catch our next lesson on English for Travelers. So long for today.